Today, we are here for the Film Garage 208 podcast, a podcast that celebrates the ingenuity and creative flair of small businesses. So today, we have Candace with us.
From HipSip.
From HipSip. Yes, and it's been so fun getting to know you.
Yeah,
and doing
I love getting to know you
a
guys.
couple videos with you here and there.
Yes.
But we want to know a lot more about you.
I'm like, where do we start?
Yeah, where do we start?
So let's go with HipSip.
Okay.
Explain to people what that is and
Sure.
why you started.
Okay.
Okay.
So there's like a couple different stories, I think, behind why I started it. But basically,
You can tell them all.
I'm like, what it is first, it's like a mocktail soda bar. But we like try to be bougie.
Uh-huh.
We're like the bougie side of soda shops. That's the goal, right? So we include things like fruit waters and protein drinks. We've done collagen waters and BCAAs and different things in our drinks. But in general, we just try to like take it up a notch or the experience up a notch. So, but we're a soda shop, which if people are listening, not in Utah, Arizona, Idaho,
Yes.
they might be like, what is that? But it's basically like a drink shop for people who maybe don't drink coffee or do, but it's a lot of caffeine going in and out of there. So yeah.
Lots of sugar.
Yes, lots of sugar. It's always sticky. So if I know I'm going to be
I
there.
bet.
I
All the
just,
squirt
like,
pumps.
Oh, and like there have been times where like, cause we do the bursting boba. And there's like been, I think 2 times that like an entire tub has been dropped on the floor. And I'm like, that might be worse than confetti. Like where do you even start?
Right? Sticky boba everywhere.
Yep. And I've had Tirani bottles of syrup like burst in my car, which is horrible. So you're just like, okay, let's just burn it all.
Yeah.
Because I don't even know where to start.
It's all done.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, get a new car.
Yes, exactly.
We have to go back. So HipSip.
Yes.
What got you started in HipSip? Have you always been an entrepreneur? Have you done other things before you started HipSip or?
Yeah. So I think I'm like an accidental entrepreneur, which maybe that's what everyone is. I don't know.
Yeah.
So my background's in marketing and communications. And so I did work in an agency in Salt Lake and then also in DC for a little while. I'm from the DC area originally.
Oh, okay.
And I enjoyed that. I like to be busy. So agency work was great because I'd have like 15 clients and, I was working on jewelry and then water conservation and then, the Sundance Film Festival. So like my brain was constantly.
You said an agency.
Switch. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. So I was constantly having to switch gears. And when I was in DC, I worked with like Xbox, the US Postal Service, like different things where it's like you had to become an expert on something you knew nothing about because you were going to become the face of whatever their marketing campaigns were. So I really enjoyed that. But I think even outside of agency, I've always tried to like get involved in something. I love to connect with people. I'm always looking for like something really to do. I have a lot of energy.
Yeah.
Maybe the caffeine. I don't know. So I've done some different things. My husband went to med school. So we had 2 little kids at the time. We were living in Las Vegas. That's when like painted furniture was like a big thing, like the chalk paint.
Okay.
And
Like
was,
refurbishing.
like shabby chic, like the mid-century furniture. And I was like, well, I think I could do that. So I started like painting furniture and flipping it and selling it on Facebook. And that became like I had my own like furniture dealer.
Cool.
Nice.
So I would be in my
That's super
garage,
cool.
like painting.
How quickly
like,
did that build up?
Pretty fast.
Yeah.
It was like, it was so popular then and there was a lot of people that were just too scared to do it. And I'm like, well, I'll just buy some paint and a brush. I'll figure it out. So, I did learn the technique and my dad's a builder. So I think I've got some like
The genes in you.
confidence in paint, maybe, I don't know, and furniture. But yeah, so that was probably like the start of like, oh, I could do stuff, from home with kids. So my 2 boys would be sitting in like a cardboard box painting with like Crayola paint. And I would have like a piece of furniture and I would just like turn around and flip them. So that's kind of how we made money while he was in school.
Yeah.
Nice.
So, and furnished
Hustling.
our house, which was awesome. And really it came from, we got to Vegas and I was like wanting to like, get furniture for our house. I'm like, we can't afford anything, you know? And so finding like really cool pieces that I could like make personal and put in our home was really neat. So giving that to other people was also super fun.
And you would go out to Goodwills, thrift stores?
I did initially, but once I had that like furniture dealer, it was really weird. He would get pieces and then he would sell them to me for just a little bit more. So I'd get like a really cool dresser for like $60 and then sell it like a week later for $400 or $500.
That's awesome.
Nice.
So it was good. So
Very
it was
satisfying,
fun.
I'm sure.
Yeah. And then I had, at the time, I can't remember if I submitted it or my sister-in-law had submitted one of my pieces to Country Living magazine and they like posted it as one of their like top 10 refurnishing projects. But I was like, oh, That's kind of cool.
That's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and then we moved to DC. So my husband went to residency. So it was kind of like I left that in Vegas. I did some of it in DC, but in Vegas I had like a 3-car garage.
Yeah.
And then we moved to like an old townhome, like city style in Virginia. And so it wasn't as feasible to like, I mean, I did it, but it was like, I'd kept kids walking around with wet furniture and I'm like, don't touch it. You know, sanding things indoors in the winter.
We're in the East Coast and then you went to Vegas and then you went back to the East Coast.
Yep. Yeah. We've kind of like ping ponged across the country.
I kind of had a similar story. I'm from Maryland.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm just from Springfield, Virginia.
Oh,
so
okay.
Not very far.
Just right around the corner.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So then you stopped doing the marketing agency after that first move to Vegas. And then you were being
when I was
mom
in Vegas,
life.
I worked from home for an attorney office and just did marketing for them. Just that one thing. But I had a hard time just like focusing on one thing, I think. So it was fine. But I was always looking for like little side stuff or, you know, things to just use my brain differently, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
So, so we were in Vegas, then we went back to DC. We were there for 4 years. And I'm like, what did I do there? My family's all there. So I'm a runner. So I ran competitively for a while, like for a few different brands, which
competitively?
Yeah. So
like you were a sponsored runner.
Yeah. Yeah.
You dabbled in
So I
a
was like,
lot.
I've got a lot of
like,
weird layers. Like
You say it so nonchalant.
I was like, what did I do in Virginia? Oh, I ran a lot.
I ran a lot.
So who were you sponsored by?
Aquaphor, Nathan Performance Gear, and Snickers.
Nice.
That's
the Snickers
so cool.
one was
That's
funny.
awesome.
It was like their protein bar line, but my husband was like, does it feel weird to be sponsored by a candy bar? I'm like, a little, but it's fine. It's their protein bar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you always stayed in this kind of marketing niche.
I just
You've
like
been able
staying
to
with like brands and different things.
Yeah.
So that came about. See, I'm telling you, there's a lot of layers here. I was in a car accident when I was 18 years old. So that, and I was told I was never going to run again. So, and usually when people tell me I can't do something, I'm like, I'm going to do that twice, you know? So that's where those sponsorships came from. I think there was like a news article on how I went back to running after my car accident. And then the brands kind of like found me from that. So I was fast enough. I probably wasn't like, I mean, I'm not going to go like win the Boston Marathon or anything. Too busy
Were
right
you doing
now.
full marathons?
Half was the race that I was like sponsored for. So I would run 10Ks and half marathons.
Okay.
So, which was fun.
It's a good number, not a full marathon.
I know. I'm like, I'd like to do a full, but it's like the time it takes to train for it has just not been there.
Would you do it again?
Yeah, I totally would. I still run a lot, but now it's more for like, I'd say joy of movement, just because I'm so busy that it's like, that's like my time. I can't let it be work, you know?
Yeah.
So
Some
if it's like, I
peace.
have to go out today and run 14 miles and hit this pace, then it feels too like
another
much like a
task.
chore.
Yeah.
And so there's times I go out and run and then halfway in, I'm like, nah, I just start walking and I just walk. And I love like now just being able to enjoy it
Yeah.
versus like, it was a challenge, but it was a job. You know? Running was my job.
Making everything to work.
Yeah.
That's hard.
was
Running is
hard.
a job.
It's always hard too when you take your hobbies and turn it into a profession.
Right.
And try to like keep that creative interest in it still without just being burnt out.
And that's, I think, honestly, one of the biggest challenges of like entrepreneurship, because obviously you're going into something you're passionate about. So how do you like take something that you love, make it your work, and not burn out on something you love?
Not let it ruin you.
Immediately hate
Yeah.
it.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like if you love photography and then you make it your living, how do you like protect that?
Because I've
you know?
heard from a lot of people that you shouldn't do that with your hobbies. You shouldn't
Right.
make that your profession because
Right.
it does that. So
Right.
yeah, it's tricky to find
so there's
that
a fine line
balance.
there. So, which gets me back to Hip Sip. I love soda. I love Diet Coke. That was like, I feel like my blood type for several years, you know, lots of years. So since college. So,
I feel like Diet Coke's kind of fallen off the maps a
I
little
know,
bit,
there's
but there
like-
was a time there where it was like,
it's like
that's all
only
anyone
Diet
drank.
Coke. Now I feel like converted to mostly Diet Dr. Pepper, but it was like the gateway drug to Diet Pepper. I don't know. So
Opening Hip Sip was your gateway.
yes,
Yeah.
yes. So, I mean, there's different things that went into, I always wanted to open a soda shop. Well, since we lived in Vegas. In college, I had a roommate that we used to drink Diet Coke all the time. And she actually had a mom that was sick with cancer. And so we would like go get a Diet Coke and like go for a drive. That was kind of like our thing. And we would call it a freshie. We'd always be like, let's go get a freshie, like a fresh drink. I don't know why we called it that.
Yeah.
And then I kind of carried that on to my parents because my parents go to McDonald's every single day and get a Diet Coke, sometimes multiple times a day.
Yeah.
That's like their thing. Like if they're bored, they want to go for a drive. So now they say they're going to go get a freshie. And I know they're going to McDonald's for a Diet Coke. And then when my husband was in med school, again, poor life, right? So we would take our kids to the park and go, there was a Sonic right there. So we'd kind of time it around happy hour and we'd go get, 44-ounce drinks, go sit at the park because it was like 100 degrees outside. Yeah. And that was kind of our thing.
I like that.
So it was like where we connected. It was like something simple.
Yeah.
But it was like, even when he came home from class, I knew I could count on, okay, we're going to go get a soda and we're going to go to the park together. So it was like our little like activity for our family.
I like that.
Yeah. So, and then we would, when we moved back east, every time we came out west to visit family, we'd always go to like the soda shops in Utah. And I was like, this is just such a cool concept. Like the people literally are coming here just for like a drink, sometimes a treat or a snack. But I was like, I would love to like own one of these one day, So when we moved to Idaho, this is where he was hired to work right after residency. I found like a local soda shop that I liked, and which I'm not going to name because now they're a competitor. Just kidding. No, but they
were just okay. That's why you had to make a better one.
Yeah, exactly. Well, they have a different owners now, so it's just different. It's different. But I didn't know my way around anywhere. I'm like totally directionally challenged, but I was like, okay, I could get up and do some chores, unpack some stuff, and then I'd go get a drink. And I knew I could get to like the soda shop and back home. I mean, I had Google Maps, but I was like trying to learn my way around. So that was kind of like my spot.
That was your safe spot.
Yeah. And I was really impressed by how quickly the employees learned like my name, my kids' names, what I like to drink. They would ask like basic questions. So it was kind of like my only like human interaction when we first moved here. And so I kind of like craved that, it was like, oh, I can go see like my little teenage friends at the soda shop, and that's when I really was like, okay, I want to create something like this because that was like, so like special to me at that time to have, some sort of human connection when I was in an area that I like knew no one, know? Yeah. So, and I had little kids and, just trying to make it through the day and that just like discomfort of moving. Right. Mm-hmm. So that's when I mentally was committing to the idea of like, okay, one day I'm going to do this. Yeah. I became more serious about it in probably like 2019. Like, okay, I want to figure out like a brand. So my brother-in-law, he does all of the marketing and communications for Wendy's. And so I was like, hey, my kids actually had thought of the name Hip Sip. I'm like, can you like concept some logos? I just want to see what it looks like. Cause I think with branding, you have to see it. Yeah. And say it and see like.
To make it real.
Yeah. It's kind of like naming a child.
It is.
I'm going to keep saying their name and see if it's annoying or if it sounds weird. Yeah. So I was like, oh, Hip Sip. It's kind of fun, Yeah. And so he created the logo in like 5 minutes. He is like a creative genius. I'm like, well, that has to happen now because that logo is too good. Like I can't let that die. Yeah. But we kind of just kept it in our back pocket. It was really hard to find like a location. Yeah. I didn't want to set up in like a trailer barn shed type setup because that just seemed like too much work. You have to pull all the utilities and stuff like that.
It's a lot more.
It's a lot more
setting up and taking down kind of every day a little bit.
Yes, I wanted to be more like brick and mortar setup. So our original location was a different soda shop for a short time. And then they actually like closed like on a whim. And we're good friends with the people who own the Mexican restaurant. Yes. So we just happened to be there and they're like, hey, they're moving out. And I was like, can we have it? So we like pulled it together, pulled it off in like 5 weeks. Wow. Yeah.
It was meant to happen. You got to just take the opportunity.
And at the time I was, I owned it with one of my really good friends. Okay. So we started it together, which was totally fine, totally good. She wanted to be a flight attendant, which is great. I'm like, chase your dreams. Yeah. So I actually ended up buying her out of Hip Sip in December. So now I'm the sole owner of it. But we started it together. So, which was fun to have a friend when you're like, what are we doing?
For sure.
Yeah. So, that's kind of where it all like stemmed from though.
That's really cool.
It's just snowballed.
And now here we are.
So here we are now. You have two
second location opened.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
Planning a few more.
Yeah, I was gonna say, is there more in the works?
Yes, there's more in the works. I want to grow it, but like intentionally. Yeah. I don't want to lose the culture. The culture like feels very like special in Hip Sip. So we're growing it, but I feel like there's like, obviously there's a lot of soda shops. So that's like a weird dynamic too. Cause you're like, are there too many? Are we over creating them? Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm not going to just like throw them up everywhere just to have them. Like I want it to make sense. Yeah. I want it to be like in communities that need human connection and caffeine. Yeah. You know what I mean?
So with that human connection, are you training your teams to like be so kind and nice to everybody, or are they just naturally such
it's
nice,
just
kind
you managing
people?
them, right?
Yeah, I've got some like kind of unofficial managers at HipSip.
Yeah.
We don't have titles. That was like one thing that was like.
So your team doesn't have any titles in the store.
No, there's like some people that are like more overseeing, but we're not like, this is your shift lead, this is your whatever. Like they're kind of like a little family, and it's just worked out really well that way. I've trained them to just be themselves, I would say.
So it kind of happened that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, and I've seen a lot of people come out of their shell and kind of find who they are at HipSip, which has been awesome because they're young. A lot of them, this is like their first experience with work in general.
Yeah.
Like right now, they're creating the foundation of what work looks and feels like, and what their relationship and attitude will be for work in the future. Yeah. So I feel a little bit of that responsibility to be like, work doesn't have to suck. You don't have to hate your job, you know?
Yeah.
But I want them to just be themselves. Like we don't have a dress code because I feel like people are more comfortable being in their own skin and talking to people when they're dressed in clothes that they feel, you know, confident in.
Yeah.
So if I make them wear like some collared shirt and khakis, they might be like, you know, which I wouldn't do anyways, but that would not be the uniform. That would be the uniform.
It'd be a pink polo.
Yeah, exactly. A pink polo.
Khakis and a polo.
Yeah. So I guess my brain went to like Target.
Yeah.
I was totally at Target. So.
Basic dad outfit.
Yes. Like the State Farm. Is that the commercial for State Farm?
Yes.
So they really just, I mean, I've told them to like, hey, I was on the other side of that window, and it meant a lot to me when they would be like, oh, you got your haircut. Oh, your kids have soccer cleats on. Who do they play soccer for? And genuinely ask those questions and, you know, take them to memory. So when they come back, oh, did you win your game? You know, it was just more of training them to have like normal conversations and be organic. And they all have done amazing at it. And they have their own personal friendships with customers. They go out on customers' boats. They go to barbecues. They go to their house and like babysit their kids. They've invited them to their weddings. Like that's been really, really fun to watch. But it's not, and I know some businesses will like push, like talk to them so you can get tips, you know, do this. And that's not the intention. If someone tips them, great. But there's no like quotas they have to hit unless they set them for themselves. But that's been really cool. But I want it to be, I've always told them, if you're going to ask a question of someone, make sure it's not something you're going to already plan to ask the next car. So, cause some people will, you know, do that. Like,
that's good.
You know, like and they will say like, oh, are you up to anything fun today? And it's like that, but
it's a
whenever
pretty
they
basic
asked me
question.
that, I was like, no. I have kids and I'm cleaning toilets and getting
this
a soda.
is it.
I know, like this is the highlight.
You're
right
looking
now.
at it. Yeah.
This is our play date. Yeah. So
don't make me think about the rest.
I know. I was like, wow, my life is lame because this was the highlight. So no, they do a great job though. Yeah.
When we were there the other day filming, there was a good handful of cars that came by, and it seemed like everybody like personally knew each other. It was kind of interesting.
Like every car that came up was a friend or seemed like a friend.
Yeah, there's like this like side of like, because people are always like, what is with these soda shops? And I can't speak for the other ones. I don't know. But I'm like, it's more than a soda. We have like an unofficial tagline. Let's see if I can remember it now. So we just said, human connection through carbonation. The only thing filtered is our water. That's what we say. But
I love
it's
it.
like people will come, and I've seen, you know, that this is also the perk of not being like in like a pop-up or shed type setup. I'm in there quite a bit. So I'm listening and hearing these interactions. But I've seen people come by and they're like, I wasn't even thirsty, but like, I'll take a small Sprite because they just want to talk to someone.
Interesting.
You know? Yeah. So we've had people come to HipSip that are contemplating suicide, and that was like where they come. And it's like so crazy and cool to think that is their safe spot. You know, that they trust the person who's making their drink every morning with that information. You know,
and then, care.
Yeah. And so and again, my employees are so good because they're like, okay, let's, you know, call.
Let's help you out.
And what do you want to drink? You know, it's kind of like, okay, at what point do you ask them what they want to drink, you know, in those situations?
Yeah.
But, our original location is by Wood Funeral Home. And so we get a lot of people that come over like right after a funeral. And so that connection is important too. Or like the whole family will come over and sit in and have a drink. So it's really like this like bonding, I don't know, soda,
just sit and have
waters,
a drink.
protein. They just like bring people together. So and I love connecting with people. So this is like the perfect thing for me because I love to meet people and, you know, have that human connection. So, yeah.
I also think that like I have to leave the house at least once a day for
Right.
something.
Yes.
And it will normally be to go grab a coffee or grab a drink.
Yep.
And that's the one thing that
When
I'm
we first
thinking.
moved here, there was, it was like every morning we had to go get a drink just to get out of the house.
I know, you do.
Especially as a work from home, a
Yeah.
lot of the time you just needed an excuse to
But you
just
kind
have
of feel
somewhere to
refreshed
be.
just by like walking out.
It's like a
reason
restart.
to get dressed and
yeah.
Yeah, and
look
like
like
start your day.
a presentable human for the
Right.
day.
Yes. Yeah. And it's even funny now. Like my husband works night shifts at the hospital. So it'll be like midnight and he'll send me a text. Can we go get a drink? So I'm like in my pajamas. He's in his scrubs. We're like going into Hip Sip at midnight.
Stop.
Going to
I
make
love
a drink.
that.
That's awesome.
know?
That's so
So
great.
now I'm like, now we have our own key. Life has really changed from our Sonic days, you know?
I love that. That's so
But
fun.
It is really fun. So we love it.
How do you manage your day to day? Are you in the shop all day, every day? Because you have children, you have other responsibilities.
I've got 4 kids. No, I'm not in there. Originally, I was in there a lot. I go every day because I go get a drink. So I'm like, which is like the perfect, like I can pop in.
Yeah.
I'll cover for people sometimes just because I'm a sucker. So if they're like, forget
That's
to
nice
ask
of
it
you.
off. And I'm like, but
Yeah.
I think it's like good for me too because it's, I just so
Keeps you
appreciate all of
fresh.
them. Like,
Gets you back
I
in there
genuinely
and
appreciate all of them. I'm like,
stay
I
in
can't
tune.
do this without you. I can do the marketing and different things, but I can't connect with people the way they do, and I can't make drinks as fast as they do. It's like crazy to me how fast they make drinks. But I am in there at least once a day. And now that we have 2 locations, I try to pop in both just to kind of check on things. But honestly, they run it so good. It's like I haven't had to be in there a ton.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to be completely removed.
Yeah.
I think it's important to show my face.
Because you do
there.
the hiring, you
Mhm.
make the schedules.
Yeah.
You do.
And I have someone at Hip Sip that helps with that. We kind of split it, because she's in college. So like if she's busy, I do it, but it is nice to have someone like if I'm like a bunch going on with my kids, like she'll totally do it. And she's actually done quite a bit of the hiring and she does the training. I don't love to do that part because I know a lot of people here and a lot of them have teenagers.
It gets personal at that point.
Yeah. And
That's
I
a
don't want to
good
not
point.
hire someone's child.
yeah.
Sometimes we just don't have the hours
Yeah.
or the schedule they need, but it's just easier if I'm like, nope, that's, I have someone else manage that. Here's her phone number, reach out to her. And she's really good at picking like the right personalities to hire. And so I've like completely trusted her to do that. So some even people that I've like been like, wow, they're like really shy, but she thinks this is a good fit. And then they are the ones that like blossom. And it's like, that's been so fun to watch.
It always ends up being that way a little bit.
Yeah.
We worked in retail and we hired a bunch of people within those ages of like 16 to 18.
Uh-huh.
And it was always interesting seeing the personalities once you
Right.
got them into
Yes.
that like work scenario, not at home, not with a parent,
Yes.
someone else with like a third party giving them advice and,
And it
information.
takes like a minute, I think, just in general, because you're like, when you start any new job, it's
Gotta get
foreign to you.
comfortable.
Yeah.
You can't. So it takes a little bit of time to just feel like you're not drinking water, I think, from a fire hydrant. But you can see them get more comfortable. And
Yeah.
so it's really rewarding,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I can get my drink. So it's all very rewarding.
Yeah. That's what we needed in the end was our drink.
Yes, exactly.
I noticed that both of your locations are pretty heavy drive-through
Uh-huh.
location versus in-store for like sitting area.
Right.
Is that a part of your plan, or is that something that like you would like to have seating area? Because
Yeah.
from what I saw, when people come through the drive-through, it kind of forced that customer interaction where every customer was getting that conversation and
Right.
everything you just talked about
Yep.
that they focus on.
Yeah.
So like if there was more seating, do you think that would take away from that, or?
So I have like some ideas of how to do this. This has been a tricky thing because when we first opened our original one, we had the walk-in ordering. And since we're connected to Taco Real Rodeo, people would order drinks and sit, or they would get Mexican food and then order a drink and sit. So we
Yeah.
did have that seating area. What we kind of found though was that people would typically want to come in and order when the line was too long. So it was kind of like, oh, it's a long line, I'll run in and order.
Yeah.
But we'd still have the same like 3 or 4 people working, and it just disrupted like
The
the
flow.
flow. So then I was like, okay, how do we navigate this? So we ended up closing the front to it's just on our app or DoorDash pickup.
I see.
There were some people at first super mad about it, but I'm like, we're trying to offer you like the best
Yeah.
service experience.
Yeah.
But it is tricky because there are people who want to sit at the window and talk. That is their only adult or human interaction for the day, you
Yeah.
know? And you don't want to be like, oh, that's great.
Like,
Cool. I got to get the
move
next
along.
car. So that can be tricky to navigate.
Yeah.
So I think there's definitely value in having a sitting area. we may be doing that shortly with our original location. I have like a whole concept going in my head of what we're going to do in there. But I want to create a place where people can come in and get a drink and sit and talk, almost like to a bartender.
Yeah, elaborate on that a little bit, because you told me about that once, how your plan was to have the gas station, the food, and your drinks all in one location.
Yes. So we...
Why?
Kind of like it's like a one-stop shop where you can get your different things and, you know, kind of come in and have that experience, get out of the house, take a few minutes to do something that's like off your routine. So you're off autopilot. But I love the idea of having like a bartender for soda, like like an actual bar, you know? And so that's where my brain is going.
Cool. I like that.
I feel like that's like, and it's not a secret. I'm like, if other soda shops listening, have at it, you know? But I think that's the one thing lacking, because that is a huge part of this business, is that human interaction. But they are very short blips, because when the line is crazy, you don't have that time to sit and talk. So I don't even necessarily want to just have a place where people come in and sit, order their drink and sit at a table by themselves. I want it to be like an engaging communication with the bartender,
like at the bar
almost
top.
like you have
That's
someone
fun.
sits and like, you know, maybe it's like you get your cup and it's a one price and it's refillable.
Yeah.
You have free Wi-Fi. You can sit there and work, whatever you want to do.
I love that.
But
That's great.
you know, I
That's
think
a really good
that's
idea.
like the one thing lacking. I feel like
If
right
anyone
now.
does it before you, Hip Sip had the idea
I know.
first.
Hip Sip.
It's been said here.
Yeah.
Yes, it's right here.
It's like
on this podcast.
not a coffee shop.
It's copyrighted right now.
It's copyrighted. Yep, that's what that means.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like a coffee shop.
Like,
but even like
you can
when you
bring
go
your
to
stuff,
like
study if you want.
Yeah.
But you can talk to the bartender. and-
right. Yeah. So I want it to be, I like seating where if you want to have just time to yourself and you don't want to talk to someone, that's fine too.
Yeah.
But I would love to have like the wraparound seating like at a bar where you can just sit and, you know, maybe they know who's working at the bar that day.
Especially because your drinks all
Yeah.
require combinations and mixes, so it's entertaining to watch.
Oh yeah. It's fun to watch them like, and it is like kind of like
watching a
language.
bartender make a drink. It's just fun.
Mm-hmm.
And they've like learned how to mix different flavors. So, and I've told them too, try what you want, experiment. Because I also want them to be able to speak to the drink. So if someone's like, what's your favorite drink? Oh, I don't know. I have to buy all my drinks and I've never tried them. You know, like that's not smart. Right? So they're all very comfortable like experimenting and trying stuff, and they've come up with some really good drinks. So it is really fun to watch them like, and what combinations they put together. We have a lot of customers that pull up and say, surprise me. Like, I want something with Mountain Dew. Just surprise me. So that's kind of fun too. And that they trust them to like, you know, mix whatever they want in it.
It's like bartender stuff. I love it.
No, so that's where my brain's going.
Yeah.
It's like, what is this business missing? What is this like, what sets you apart? You're always trying to set yourself apart when I'm in a sea of soda shop. You were asking if we'd expand outside of Idaho.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the goal right now. But again, I'm like trying to figure out how do we preserve the culture by doing that.
Right. That's true.
Because, and I don't think that like I'm the culture. I don't think that that's what's necessarily carrying it over. But I just don't want it to get like, when you expand, you become more corporate, you know, like you kind of have to, because you have to have processes and things.
You're more vulnerable to a lot of other things too.
Right.
Yeah.
And so you have to have, I feel like, very clear processes and things that way you do certain things. Because I'm not, if I have one in Arizona, I'm not going to know my employees on a personal level. Yeah. Like I do now. And I know that like my employees right now, every single one of them like respects and cares about me and my family and the efforts that we put into this. I know they're not going to screw us over. Like I can confidently say that.
Yeah.
But if you expand, not that people wouldn't like us in other places, but if they don't know us, I can't trust that process as easily. So right now, I was talking to my mom about this the other day. I was like, I want to create basically like my template format that we can expand with that works, so that we can just, it's like copy paste, you know. So that's what I'm kind of working on right now is, you know, how do we expand the business so it's easy on us, but create a very clear process, like, you know, down to like what model ice machine has to be in there. So you know, everything is just done.
Yeah.
So. So yeah, expanding with like intention and just making sure we're in the right areas. I would say not oversaturated, but it is oversaturated here with soda shop. So whatever.
Yeah. On that, like I mean, you definitely have some really creative ideas, but like, do you look at other soda shops around here and just think, what are you not doing? Or where do you get your inspiration?
So I think before we opened, I was like a frequent flyer at all the soda shops here. So that probably helped like, and I think having like a marketing brain, like, like my brain like absorbs things like a sponge, and I kind of like, I see things. I have a very like photographic memory. So I'll like remember certain things. But I don't look at the other soda shops here at this point, really. I know that they look at us, which is flattering. Just from my employees telling us different things. I'm like, oh, that's funny. But I probably look at like Swig, like they're bigger.
Yeah.
But they're corporate. So there's a lot of things they do that I'm like, I wouldn't do that, you know? But I think I look at like Instagram Reels and TikTok and stuff like that a lot, just to kind of see what's trending. And then I like segue that into what our business is of like drinks, just like the bucket challenge.
Yeah.
The original video that I saw of that was like, I think it was like in a village somewhere, and it was like women doing it. And I was like, they're having so much fun.
Yeah.
And I love like a good laugh. Like I love funny videos. I love watching people laugh. And so I was like, oh, this would just be really fun.
Yeah.
Especially with teenagers, because everything is always so like
Extra
filtered
and
and posed and like the angles. So to see them completely like
Vulnerable.
blindfolded to what they even look like. And I think that it might take off. I mean, Chick-fil-A did it with you, right?
Yeah.
And then they
We'll see if
tagged
we
a
get
few other
more.
businesses.
Yeah.
And then I tagged a soda shop in Utah that I do know the owner of. And so I look at, the Utah soda shops are bigger.
Have you seen anyone else do it yet without like water? Like with how you did it with this?
No, that was
the
the first
soda
time, the
and-
soda and then the lemonade, which has like a cringe factor to it.
It does.
Oh my, yeah, the pulp
I was waiting
on them
for
after.
someone to like comment and be like, that's a waste. But I'm like, I don't care. It's like that much soda dumped on you. I mean, think when you spill a drink, how annoying that is.
Yeah.
That was
to
like
have, like,
30
The
drinks.
biggest.
I love when it goes like right over the bucket too onto the lap. Like I'm like, you like rainbowed that over
Yeah.
top, perfect arch into the lap. And it's
That
so
was so
cold.
funny. It was so funny.
Yeah, I'm like, I don't want to do it, but I'll watch you guys do it.
Yeah.
So, I don't like to be cold.
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably look at the Utah soda shops more though. Like I'll look at their stuff and follow with like respect, because I'm like, it's much more cutthroat in Utah.
Mm-hmm.
They have to stay like very active and busy on social media and everything. So
Yeah.
I'll look at their stuff just to kind of see like, you can kind of see how that's all playing out for them.
Mm-hmm.
But really it's just, I think like a lot of social media, I just try to follow as close as possible and try to make it applicable to what we're doing.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I guess that was kind of the follow-up question was like leveraging that media. So you're into marketing. So do you have like a plan, a method that you do for your marketing?
Or does your business
There's
kind of
like any
Day
change
to
my
day.
awareness.
Yeah. Mhm.
Day to day, it kind of changes. Used to more. Like when we first opened, we were like all over the place. Like my poor employees, they're kind of like the first child, where you're like, I'm learning on you.
Figuring
Sorry.
everything out.
Yeah, sorry in advance. Because the whole concept of hip sip, we were like, okay, we're going to just, even though the word hip is not very cool, which was funny, but like, we're just going to try to stay on trend. Like that's the goal of being hip sip.
Okay.
So like all of the drink names, if you look at the menu, are different like trends or like the goth, the emo, the soccer mom, the Rizzler, which is a new term, and so we were like really intense trying to stay on trend when it first started.
Yeah.
So we'd be like, hey, this is trendy today. We got to do it today. And we'd like go buy the ingredients and like show up and send a text out and not really warn our employees. And then it was like mad chaos,
Yeah.
So I still try to like stay on top of what the trends are because I feel like that was the whole purpose of the brand, but not as impulsively. I mean, kind of. I did say like, hey, can you come film this in 48 hours?
Yeah.
But I was like, I just don't know when it's going to get cold,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, so that's like just trying to stay on trend as much as possible.
Without trying too hard. It's like a balance.
Happy
Because there are
medium.
some things like when I watch social media, I'm like, oh, I can't even watch that. Like
Yeah.
that is like trying
Cringe.
way too hard. Or when people like recreate a video and I'm like, hey, you should have done it like a week or two ago because now it's like enough,
Yeah.
Mhm.
We've seen enough of
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
You're not creative. Everyone else is doing
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. You're like, your views aren't going to be that high now. Like
Yeah.
the algorithm's not picking it up,
Yeah.
So
Do you feel pressured by that to
like
stay
the
trendy?
algorithms or just like or just stay trendy?
I guess just since your initial idea was to stay on trend, like Do you find that that's made it hard or more of like a fun challenge for your employees and you to?
Now it's fun. I felt like a lot of pressure at first.
Yeah.
And I think we were trying so hard just to get like our name out there and let people know like, this is the brand we're going to be. Because people be like, oh, another soda shop. And we're like, no, we're different. I mean, we are, but we're not, you know? So initially I did, but now I feel like we have enough customer base that like kind of represents that I don't have to like push it as hard. So now it's just kind of like when it's fun.
Natural.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah.
It's gotten to that natural.
I mean, it's hard though when like starting a business. I mean, when we started it, all I knew is that I liked to drink Diet Coke.
There was so
I
much
knew
more.
marketing stuff, but then like literally I made the menu, had not tried one drink. Like, and it was the night before we opened.
This is the combination.
You had all these puzzle pieces. You just didn't.
It was like I had
have it
Pinterest
together
boards
yet.
and saved combinations. I didn't know like how many pumps you put in, how much cream. So I had like made this full menu.
Just
And like
awful.
literally the night before we opened, I'm like, what if they all taste like crap?
Yeah.
Because our soda machines weren't in it. I couldn't sample them.
Oh no.
I was just going off of like
Classic
sounds
flavors.
good. Yeah, classic flavors and then what sounded good. And some of them we've like changed the menu twice. I'm like, some of those we got off because they weren't horrible, but it was like, nah, that was not something that you tried. You're like, that's actually kind of sour. Wasn't great, you know?
Yeah.
But it is funny. I'm like, I had not tried anything. I'm like, what if this all tastes like crap? What have I done? And I didn't know how to make them. So I'm like, I don't know what I got myself into. But it's like starting a business like and becoming like an expert on something with like as you go is really tricky. I mean, I didn't buy a franchise. So, and there's nothing wrong with buying a franchise, but I literally had to create or learn every single detail down to the diameter of a straw because it was not handed to me in a little folder, you know?
Here's what to do next.
I mean, I was like
the shipment coming in the mail.
Yes.
Yeah.
Here's your
and like
marketing.
learning your vendors, learning your cup sizes, what lids work best. I mean, there's like, it's like
There's so
crazy
much,
how
I'm
much
sure.
I know about drinks now. I'm like, do I still like Diet Coke? I don't know. It's exhausting to learn all that, you know?
No, that's so great. Having, you just jumped right in then.
Yeah.
So you
Jumped
said
off
you
the
didn't
cliff
even
and built
have
your plane on the way down.
the
Yes.
soda machine yet, and you're about to
because
open.
Coke brings those in, and it was like since we like opened so quickly, I think that we had our soda machines in like 3 days before we launched.
Wow.
Which Tiffany, my friend who I owned it with, she's very much my personality. I'm like impulsive and she's confident, so it worked really well. She's like, well, let's just do it.
Even it out.
And because there was a lot of moments where I'm like, I have like 4 little kids. Like, why am I doing this right now? You know, I don't need to do this. And she'd be like, well, let's just do it. If it fails, it fails. Like, so even like picking our launch date, we were like, should we do it on this day? And I'm like, I mean, we can. She's like, I mean, it may not be great, but like, so it was just very like, we probably
we'll
could have like
see.
waited a month, sampled drinks. We're like, nope, we're just going to go for
Just
it.
do it.
And it worked out fine. The night before we opened, her and I pulled an all-nighter. We stayed at that location the whole night because we were still setting stuff up. But then we're like, oh, it's 2 a.m. Oh, it's 3 a.m. We should just spend the night here. So we spent the night there, like watched the sunrise, and then went home and crashed and just let our employees handle it for the day. And we weren't there. We didn't get there till like 4 because we were so tired. But anyway, but it's an adventure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I know we've been talking for a bit.
Yeah.
What is your biggest advice that you would have for an entrepreneur going to start their own business?
This is tricky.
Yeah.
I have like it's not that it's not PG rated, but
That's fine. I don't
Yeah,
care.
it's okay.
well, okay, so
This podcast isn't meant for babies.
I have, although I love Tiffany and she's like my good friend, I have decided that if you're going to go into business with someone, it has to be someone you're going to have sex with. I know it's funny advice. And I've told it to a couple people and they're like, oh, wait, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
Because it's such an intimate relationship. And maybe some husbands and wives or partners wouldn't enjoy working together. That's fine too. But I just feel like a business partnership as entrepreneurs is tricky.
Yeah.
It's tricky. When you're talking about money, you're deciding who's buying what, who's putting in amount of effort.
It gets tricky there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because my husband actually helps me quite a bit. He's like my biggest cheerleader. He'll like walk into Hip Sip sometimes and like tear up because he's just like proud of it. He's
love
like,
that.
he's so fun. But it's just easy to work with him because I can get mad at him and it lasts like 5 minutes.
And you can yell at him and say something.
Because he'll say a comment like, hey, do you think you really should be doing that? I'm like, seriously? You know, where I wouldn't be able to say that to a friend as easily.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly.
Literally, though.
And then it's fine. And you forget, or it doesn't like cut as deep if like something would offend you. So That's one thing. If it's an entrepreneur business partnership.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I feel like if you just like think through that, people just think through that, and then they could decide really who they can work with, you know?
Yeah.
But also just, I think it's scary. But I think, you know, everyone kind of says, just go for it, just do it, which I agree with, but try to kind of come up with your plan. And even if you don't have the whole thing, like, what do you want it to look like? Because you're not just doing it for like a season, hopefully, right? Mm-hmm. Like this is going to be, if it works, this could be like years and years to come.
Life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what do you want that to look like? Kind of like asking yourself those questions, having those conversations before you start. Because like right now I'm like, sometimes there's days where I'm like, what did I get myself into? I am caffeinating Idaho Falls, like, and trying to take care of my 4 kids. Like, why did I complicate my life like this? You know, and I enjoy it. So it's just, you're going to have those moments of like ups and downs with that. But I think really like say like, what do I want this to look like in my life long-term? Because it's exciting in the beginning, but I think you don't always think like I'm investing a lot of probably money and time into like something that's going to be an integral part of my life, you know? So how do I want that to appear in my life and in my day, and kind of figuring that out. Yeah. And then that also I think would help people figure out like what's your involvement going to be, you know?
Yeah.
Because I don't think, especially if you're starting a business, it's realistic to think it's going to be passive income. Mm-hmm. You know, you're going to have to be there. Mm-hmm. You're going to have to show your face. And if you don't, it just may not be as successful. Yeah. But no one's going to care about your business the way that you do.
Yeah.
Or the person.
Yes.
Like your
especially if they don't see you caring about it like you should be.
Right. So that's, I think, a really, important thing is like, you're not just be like, oh, I'm creating a startup and I'm going to go travel the world and make videos and that's how I'm going to make money. That's it.
Like,
because I think like younger generation, there are a lot doing that, you know, but it's like, if you really want to do something that you can be passionate about, because it's going to take a lot of time, you know, to really make it.
And even on that note, the people that are the kids that are making money traveling the world doing those videos, a lot of them burn out after a few years. Like you stop seeing their stuff, you stop seeing their relevancy, like you just kind of die off. And it's because they rode that wave, that fad, and then it's gone. And
some of the paychecks probably just aren't as high as they thought they would be, you know?
True.
Turning that into an actual business you can live off of and be supported off of is like a totally different thing.
And I think something people don't talk about a lot is that like entrepreneurship, owning a business, you meet a lot of people, but it can be lonely, you know? And I think you can kind of lose yourself in it, especially if you enjoy it. So it's like, you kind of have to have like those checkpoints with yourself. And this is kind of things I've learned. Like I love to run, obviously, right? So I could be so busy with Hip Sip that like, I don't have time to run. Or I don't make the right time to run. And I enjoy doing the marketing. I could sit and just do it. So it's like taking that time to still connect with like your old self before the business and do the things you enjoy, connect with the people that like, you know, are in your corner before your business too. Because I think it's funny, and that's where social media is a little tricky, because people can think, oh my gosh, like, you know, so many people, you're always around people, but like,
it looks that way.
Yeah, it looks that way. But when you're owning a business and you're always busy and you're always running, that can be like a lonely place, you know? So really like taking care of your business, but take care of yourself too. You know, that's, and maybe that's part of your plan before you start, of how am I going to protect my time or my family, or, you know, so it doesn't like bleed in together, because that can be tricky. I mean, there's been moments where I've been like, I mean, the other day it was like, we needed something at Hip Sip, and I'm like, no, it can wait. I'm going running, because I know that like that will change the entire rest of my day. I am like chemically wired to run, and I'm in a better brain space, and everything just goes better when I do the things that like are important to me too, you know? Yeah. So
it's interesting. I feel like I'm kind of going through that phase in my own way right now with Eve, because she would wake up in the morning for like an hour, go back down for 2 hours. And that 2 hour gap was when I would get my workout in. So it was like the only time of day I knew I could do that. And then it was also in the morning. So I had the rest of the day to know I could work. And now she doesn't take that nap. So now I don't have that time anymore to do that. And these past couple of weeks, I've been like battling with trying to figure out like the best time of day or the best way to like get that done without avoiding her, or like making Sarah watch her for like a long time while I'm just, you know, taking my time working out. Like,
it's
so
hard,
I'm trying to figure out that balance a little bit.
And I think even like with kids, I mean, obviously mine were little, like when I was running competitively, and like,
I'm not competitively
doing anything. Any working out, right? It's like, I would have like guilt every time I walked out the door. Mm-hmm. But like, it's so good for your kids to see you do those things, even if they're sitting in like, because how old is she now?
1.
Yeah.
Okay. So she's probably not wanting to be in like a bouncer thing, but I'm like,
yeah, she's like running around. She needs to be occupied.
Yeah,
mm-hmm. girl.
And it's like hard, but I'm like, I feel like even if they know like, nope, this is my time. My daughter was saying to me the other day, I don't know why she was thinking this. We were at like Dick's or Al's or something. And she's like, remember how you told me that like, moms who don't work out are grumpy moms? And I'm like, I did. But like, cause she would tell me like, she'd cry when I was leaving the house and why do you have to go? And there's a lot of moments where I'm like, screw it, I'm just not going to run today.
Yeah.
But I told her, I'm like, do you want me to be nice to you?
Yeah.
Like I have to do these things that are important to me, so that I can show up for you.
It's super important.
You know? And I had someone tell me once, like they compared it to like a car, like just yourself, your mom, owner of a business, like you're the engine. And if you don't take care of your engine, the car doesn't go anywhere, you know? So you have to take that part of it seriously. I think it's like, you can't let that slide because it happens fast. And then you're just like, who am I? Why did I what do I even enjoy anymore?
What's been going on?
You know?
Yeah.
Because you do forget. And then you do it and you're like, oh my gosh, I love that. Why don't I do that every day? You know?
It's like you have to be a little selfish so that you can give more to everyone.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's tricky. That's been like a tricky thing for me, but I'm like learning, like, no, like take the time and do it. Don't forget the things that you also loved before what you're doing now.
Yeah.
So
do you feel it's changed since your children were younger? And because they're a little bit older now,
I got like
right?
a mix. My oldest is 15 and then 14, 10 and 6.
Oh, okay.
So I've got like this like weird.
You have a little gap in there.
Yeah.
A first grader and a sophomore. You know? Like what do you mean? Like what my time change or like,
like now that they're not babies and they can go to school and
it is
have their own lives a little bit.
I talked to a few moms about this yesterday because I went and walked the Greenbelt with 2 of my friends and we ran into another mom we know that was running and she sent her baby off to kindergarten. And we're like, it's so funny because I remember like pushing my like double bob stroller in like Vegas heat and some like mom would go like whizzing by me and I'd be like, I like would crave that to just like go for like a carefree run without pushing this big yellow stroller.
Without worrying about
and
I'm
like throwing goldfish in. They've got like my phone, they're dropping it in the street, you know?
Yeah.
And it happens so fast. I know people tell you that all the time, but like I kind of like let myself sit in that moment the other day because I took my kids to school and I went for a run and I was like, I remember craving this moment. Yeah. Like I'm at this moment.
Yeah.
So like you do get sad because your kids are getting big, but I'm like, I wanted this. Like I wanted to have this time and I can show up differently for my kids.
Yeah.
Because I can get the house clean. I can get groceries. I don't have 3 kids in the cart. When they come home, I can be present.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cool, like, I don't know, it's a cool shift in like seasons of life.
That's really fun.
And my oldest can babysit the younger ones. So that's nice
a bonus
too. Because I can leave the house without locking everyone in car seats now, which is awesome.
Yeah.
I'm like, can I go back to that stage?
No.
Yeah. We only have one and I can't even imagine.
No.
4.
It's a lot. It's a lot. But yeah, it does work when the older ones can step in. You're like, this one's your responsibility today. You know? Yeah.
You can babysit today.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, I guess I could talk to you forever. We've been having a good conversation. I think it's been an hour already that we've been talking. Almost an hour.
We've got a little bit more time.
A little bit more time?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want to talk a little bit more?
Yeah. I kind of wanted to ask.
Questions.
I just had one question was like, what are some of the biggest hurdles with getting into HipSip when you started? Was it like getting the products or was it just like running the business day to day?
So we opened October 2021. So that was like just post COVID, but all the prices have been crazy ever since then. So I feel like that's been
like your products prices.
That's been the biggest hurdle for me because I'm not out to make some crazy profit margin.
Yeah.
I genuinely enjoy the business, but it is really hard right now and has been since we opened to really monitor that. And it's like, it's tricky because they'll fluctuate.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's just like vendors, like assuming you're not paying attention or whatever it is.
Interesting.
And I'm not a huge numbers person. That was when Tiffany and I wound it together. She was back office. I was front office. That's how we did things. And it was great. But it's been eye-opening to like watch that. But that's been like a really hard thing because I don't want to like overcharge people or make an experience where like, that was so expensive. Because I feel like everything's like that right now where you're like,
Things are getting pricey.
Well, and
these
things
days.
have kind of like lost like the novelty or like what makes them fun because they're so expensive. You're like, I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't worth that. And then you kind of go home feeling like empty.
Yeah.
So I don't want to like raise prices to a point where people feel like I can only go there once a week or once a month or whatever their budget allows.
Yeah.
So that's been like really tricky. Like, and so I've had to be very like involved in like playing the prices right. And I have different vendors. We'll go get stuff at Costco. I'll order from like different companies that have stuff because they have a sale going on. Yeah. So like that's like aside from like the marketing and just running it, that's like a huge time commitment. Because if I don't watch the numbers, I mean, it'll sometimes equal like 2,000 or 3,000 more a month in just costs.
Wow.
Yeah, which is crazy.
Interesting.
Like the cost of a lid, the best price.
Yeah.
5 cents.
That's weird that these vendors
Which is a lot to
fluctuate.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that a lot?
Yeah, that
you
is.
think about when you're at a restaurant, like 10 fall on the floor and you're like, and you throw
like,
them away.
Throw them all away.
I'm like
no, wipe that off.
So like, it's like weird what things cost, you know?
Yeah.
And so I think people show up. This is also tricky is like, because we have styrofoam cups, which I like styrofoam cups because you keep your drink cold, right? It's like the low budget version of a Stanley, right? So, but because of the culture of like going in a gas station and getting soda is always like you're going to buy a cheap drink, right? So people will get a soda and then like 4 mix-ins and cream. And then they're like, that was expensive. I'm just going to Maverick. You're like, that's fine. It's a different drink.
Yeah.
So like trying to convince people that like what they actually have in their cup just costs a lot. Like I'm like, I promise it costs me a lot. We're just making it and I have to pay for the hands that are making it. But like, there's not a huge profit margin in that. And I try to keep my prices as fair as possible. That's probably the one thing I do look at with other soda shops is I look like at their prices just to make sure that we're like staying competitive and not overcharging, not undercharging, but you're kind of capped. Because I've had some vendors like, well, you're just going to have to raise your prices. Everything's going up. And I'm like, no, because I'm not charging $9 for a soda, you know?
Yeah.
So that's like the trickiest part, I think, of this business is there is a cap because there's so many competitors. And there's like an expectation of how much someone's willing to pay for a drink. But the cost of each product going into that cup itself have just gone up a ton. Yeah. You know? So
and that must be frustrating as someone who just wants to run the business, like, because you're just passionate about it, not trying to make a big profit margin.
It's like weirdly satisfying though, especially not being a numbers person, to like find like a savings. I'm like, I just saved $600 because I found like, you know, whatever it is.
Yeah.
So we just go through like a stupid amount of stuff. Like, again, more than I probably, like if you had asked me before we started, how many bottles of Tarani do you think you'll go through a month? I probably would have got it wrong. Because I'm like, it's like
a quarter of what you thought.
I feel like I have Tarani in my pantry that just stays there for 7 years. You know, like it just, I don't even know who uses it. We have Tarani in our pantry. But I think we probably go through, I would guess like 900 bottles a month at least.
Oh my goodness.
It's crazy.
Wow.
900?
Probably about 900 a month of just Tarani. I know. I'm like, and if maybe if someone had told me that, I'd been like, I'm out. This is going to be too much. Like
that's big. That's big scale to buy 900
It's not like they're
bottles.
missing. You can't really miss that. Like
no,
that's all used. It's not like a beer tap where
like
you're
sugar-free
losing.
coconut or coconut. If we have like 4 bottles left in the morning, my employees will text me like, we're going to run out of coconut. Like they'll go through that by like, I don't know, 1 o'clock sometimes. It's crazy.
Right.
Yeah, it's so crazy. So, but then
exciting though.
It's exciting. It is. But then when like one vendor is charging maybe 75 cents more for that bottle, that adds up by the end of the month. So it's things like that you really have to like know what to look for and know what the prices should be. And I'm like always looking at prices. So I don't love that part. I'd like to hand that off eventually. But again, it's got to be someone who cares about it. So maybe my husband will do that. I don't know.
Yeah, you need a very diligent person for that.
Yeah. He said he would do it, but we'll see. He's like, I don't know. He's working a lot of night shifts. So it's kind of like being married to like a frat boy, you know?
Leaves
he comes home, he's like sleeping till noon, you know, and he like rolls out of bed. I'm like, oh, hi, you know.
Good morning.
Rightfully so. He's tired, but it is
Where's
funny.
my hip sip?
I know. Oh, yeah. Oh, I'll come home and I'll have mine. He's like, you didn't bring me a drink? I'm like, I didn't know if you were alive. Like, I didn't.
Sorry.
I figured you'd want it fresh, and I made mine 5 hours ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But that is a challenge, is the pricing.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, I don't feel like we're riding some wave and it's going to go back to where it was. It's just like slowly we're being like frogs boiled alive to just assume this is normal.
Right? You know? Like, what's going to happen now? How are we getting out of this?
I know. I'm like, we're not. I can't believe how much everything costs. It's like,
yeah,
it's
one day
crazy.
we just won't be able to do anything.
No.
We just live in our homes. I think that's the goal. That's what they're getting at.
I know.
They want us all just stay inside, don't do anything.
I know.
Don't
but
connect.
we won't even have homes. They're too expensive.
They're too
Yeah,
expensive.
we can't even do that.
If you
We
sold
can't buy
yours, you're
houses.
screwed.
The interest rates in the houses are too expensive. So we're all homeless.
Yeah.
Well, as long as hip stip's still
know.
affordable, then you can at least
I
have
know.
drinks.
A drink a day to
I know.
drown our sorrows.
Drink a day to drown your sorrows away.
That's basically what it is, though, right? We partner a lot with people too, though. Like I love like collaborating with people.
Okay.
Other businesses.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even care if it's like what the return on investment is. I think that's just like passionate. I love connecting with people.
Yeah.
I love meeting people. So we've done a ton of like collaboration stuff. So I'll give drinks away super cheap when we do that. But it's like fun. Like to me, that's so rewarding. Like
You
doing
found the
one on-
collaborations helpful for you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think that's partially too, though, because of the type of business we're in, is like, it is this human connection thing. So, I mean, there's been some people that reach out and I'm like, I just don't feel like that's the best fit for us, you know?
Yeah.
But like September 11th, Wood Funeral Home actually reached out just yesterday and asked if we would collaborate with them to do drinks for first responders all day, because they have a lot with, you know, what they do,
Yeah.
first responders and
Yeah.
That's really cool.
yeah, so I was like, oh yeah, totally. So
Yeah.
like we're just collaborating on that for the day at both locations. So they just have to show their badge and we'll just keep a track of what their drinks are. But like I love that stuff.
Yeah,
like
that's
to me,
really
that's
cool.
like that's why I do this.
You get
And
the fire department truck coming through your
Yeah.
drive-through regularly?
like, we
Yeah.
actually do, which is funny because when it shows up, it blocks the
You
whole
do?
way.
Really?
Like, oh, the fire trucks. We had a lot of police officers.
That's so funny.
Like the UPS guy. Like it's like
I love
That's
that.
awesome.
You see this big brown like box. I go, oh, it's UPS is out there, you know. So, and I always tell my employees too, I'm like, use common sense. So, like, if a police officer comes through, don't charge them for their drink. Like, there's things that they'll do, and maybe they don't do it every time.
Yeah.
But I'm like, pay attention. Like, if someone's like,
You
I just
allow
came
those
from my
things.
mom's funeral,
Yeah.
pay for her drink,
Mhm.
or
Yeah.
don't pay for it. Just cut like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually I used to keep a gift card loaded at the register so they could swipe it. So it was like, we're paying for your drink. It wasn't
love
just
that.
comping it
Yeah.
because I didn't want to create that expectation. But anyway,
For sure.
but I love that part of it. Of just like making
And
someone
that makes
stay.
someone feel so good when
Yeah.
That's a
someone
really
pays
nice
for your
gesture.
drink.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So when
really
people
nice.
are like, oh, you can't give stuff away, you can't do this, I'm like, then why are we doing it?
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So I took one to my son's teacher the other day. It was the first day of school. And I'd asked her what her drink was. And she was like, it was like she finally let her guard down after a whole day of first graders,
Yeah.
you know? But I'm like, hey, you teach him, I will caffeinate you. Like, this is a great relationship we
Yeah.
have. So, no, it's super fun though. Like, I love it. And my kids like it. Although my 6-year-old the other day, he was in there and he's like, well, this is my childhood. I'm like, I don't know, like, if I'm okay with that.
So I don't know what that means,
Yeah.
but
And then my 10-year-old, she
Thanks.
loves to hand out the drinks. Like, that's her.
Yeah.
And
Feels
I won't
so cool.
let her make them but she does do the peach rings because you've got the peach rings on all of them. So she'll do the peach rings and she'll hand them out.
Yeah.
But yeah, my kids, and they're in high school, my older
Yeah.
boys. So like, they're like, Mom, it's so weird. We like walk around school. People have like hip sip tumblers and like hats. And they're like,
I'm
it's
sure-
weird. That started in our living room. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? It's just so cool. And like,
it is.
That's probably
Especially
cool
if
for
they
them
get
to
to
see
see.
it. Yeah,
Yeah.
to see the full circle.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, they're quiet about it, but that takes the mom guilt away because I am busy a lot, you know?
Yeah.
But when I see them have like pride in it, it was in their yearbook this past year. I didn't realize that. Like they did like the people vote on their favorite soda shop.
Oh, cool.
And Hip Sip like won that and it was in the yearbook. I'm like, that never
Really
goes
cool.
away. Like I
Yeah.
have my yearbooks.
Yeah.
He's
It's
just
in
like,
the
Mom, did you know they
yearbook.
did this? And I'm like, nope, but that's awesome.
That's
really
Especially
cool.
being open like a year. So
Yeah.
yeah. So
That's a good accomplishment after just 1 year.
thanks. Yeah, it's been
Where did the peach ring idea come from on the straw?
so that was my favorite.
And can
candy.
you order extra peach rings on your straw?
Yes, you
'Cause
can. Yes.
I'm gonna do that next
Yes,
time.
you can. And they'll give you extra peach rings. Some people load it to the top.
I want to.
We go and
I ate mine right away, and I was like, oh.
well, okay, so there's like
Want a lot of
that
peach
was my
rings.
favorite candy growing up. So back east, did you ever go to Potbelly's?
I've heard of it. Yes, the
Okay,
sandwich,
the sandwich
store.
shop.
Yeah.
So they all of their like smoothies and shakes, they put like a little butter cookie on the straw, which I'm glad we didn't do that. At first I was like, oh, we should do the butter cookie, but a lot of drinks like barely bubble through the top, and
Like
that would
soggy
have made
cookies.
that would have been horrible.
Right.
I'm like so glad we didn't go that route.
Yeah.
But I was like, oh, peach rings, like because a lot of times I want like a bite of something sweet, but I'm not going to bite cookie like when I would go to soda shops.
Yeah.
So I'm like, it's kind of the perfect little thing. Or like a lot of moms will like ask for extra because they don't want to buy their kids a drink, but they give them their peach drink.
Yeah.
So that,
I like that.
At first we were like, oh, let's just put them on the 44-ounce size drinks, or let's just put them. And then it became this like expectation. We have like a cult following for that peach ring. We've run out probably 3 times for like 3 days because of just our shipment.
Yeah.
I've had people leave bad reviews because they didn't get their peach ring, send me DMs asking if I'll message them or text them when the peach rings are back. And I'm like, you know, you can go to the gas station and just get them.
Buy a pack.
I mean, they are good. They're the Albanese peach rings. They're good
That's
peach
so
rings.
Funny.
But it's like we're known for that peach ring. So again, that was like a huge commitment.
Yeah.
Like I didn't even think about when we started.
Like now this peach ring is it now forever.
Because like my orders come in on like a flat and it's all candy. I'm like, there's so many peach rings, but they go. I mean, and it is funny because in this like sea of soda shops, there are people that are like, yeah, I come here because I like the peach ring. Like they, even if there's other ones nearby, they want the peach ring. So they come to Hip Sip. It's funny.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how big of
a little extra feature
our brand that would be.
Yeah.
But that is totally like,
I love it.
We're known for that. And it's kind of fun because even like at the football game the other night, which ended up being full chaos. I don't know if you heard, we ended up playing at Aya. It's the rainstorm right after that. And we didn't get out until almost 1 in the morning.
Last weekend was a storm.
Yeah, it was
1 a.m.
It was nuts. But there was people who came in with the drink and I couldn't see like the label on their cup, but I could see the peach ring. I'm like, oh, it's a Hip Sip. So that's kind of fun too, because if people can't see your brand, people know when they see the peach ring that it's a Hip Sip drink.
Yeah.
So that's kind of fun. But it was an accidental, really strong branding.
Yeah, no, it's
super strong
great.
branding. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and I love it because I'm not sick of them yet. I keep thinking, when am I going to get sick of peach rings? Because every time I'm in there, it's like I grab one, you know, but not yet. I still love them. So.
Well, I'm definitely ordering extra next time for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, now that you know.
And hopefully you guys liked your drinks. I should have brought them today.
Yeah, I did. It was they were both good.
Yeah, I saw you shared your favorite drink the other day. Was it the Goth?
Yeah.
Those ingredients look really good to me.
It's funny because I've like had people try it and they're like, oh, I don't like sweet stuff because it has raspberry and vanilla syrup in it. And I always do sugar free. I'm like, it's not sweet. It's weird, but it's not sweet. It's like, it's almost got like a bite to it. I think with the lime.
The lime.
I love anything
because
with lime.
I saw the flavors in was it Coke?
Yeah, you
and then
like
lime
Coke,
that stuck out to me.
It's so good, but it doesn't taste sweet. It just is like tastes like rich Coke, but with like a bite with the lime. It's
that
so
sounds good. That sounds really good.
It's one of my faves.
Yeah.
So
Are you just talking about making a cherry limeade?
No, the Goth and the ingredients that were in it.
Gotcha.
Which the one the other day was the raspberry,
vanilla,
vanilla,
it's like raspberry,
lime.
vanilla,
Yeah, that's
lime,
good.
and Coke. It's good.
Yeah.
But
I want a cherry limeade
oh yeah, that's my husband does.
with extra peach rings.
Yes, that's neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of. My husband always makes like huckleberry with blackberry and Mountain Dew or lemonade. That's like his go-to lately. I have someone that told me to do lemonade with coconut, and I was like, ooh, that sounds good. And then add coconut cream because it takes like the acidity out. But
that could be good.
I know
It's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's definitely some concoctions though where I'm like, I thought that was gonna be good. Nope.
Nope.
That's like weird. You keep like trying to add stuff to it, like, hey, just stop, dump it out.
You need another menu of all the things not to try.
I know.
All the things you've made.
There's some people that like,
like a TikTok
on DoorDash.
channel.
Yeah.
Like people will order stuff on DoorDash and I'll like be making them and I'm like,
Of their own combos?
yes. And I'm like, how do you even come up with this? And it's like, it looks like sewage. Like I'm like, this is so gross. And then like to top it off, they want boba and cream. I'm like, okay. Like your poor stomach.
One of everything.
Their poor stomach. Like I can't even get it to stop like bubbling.
That was one thing I wondered about before we had tried Hip Sip. Because I actually didn't try a soda before. Hip Sip was the first one we tried. And
okay.
I just didn't know what to expect because I had heard about what it was. And I was like, it's got to be really strong because of the sugar in soda. But I didn't realize how you do it and how it balances it out. Because, what we had was not what I was expecting.
Well, and I try to keep the sugar really low. Like, as low as possible, unless people are coming up with their own concoctions. Some of those I'm like that, like they'll put like every kind of puree.
Yuck.
And like the cup weighs like 6 pounds, like because puree's heavy and it's like jam.
Yeah,
you think about it. I'm like,
go to dump it out and it's a log.
oh yeah, it's like
it's a blizzard thing. You tip it upside down and
they'll like, or they'll ask for double puree every puree.
Oh gosh.
And then they want like vanilla cream on top, and I'm like, oh gosh, like my stomach hurts making it. I'm like, okay, but yeah,
That's so funny.
I like, even like our protein drinks, they all have like less than 10 grams of sugar. The only one that has 10 is because it has like a natural orange juice in it. So it's like natural sugars. It's not anything crappy. So everything's low sugar. I get sugar-free, whatever I can. So that's what people like, I think, too.
Yeah.
Because you're not like shoving a cake in a cup, Unless
yeah.
someone
Right,
wants
like
that.
a whole steak dinner of calories in your cup.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So we try.
We try.
Healthy caffeination.
Yes, exactly.
And tasty.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think that was all we had for you today.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me.
Thanks
It
for
was
chatting
really
with
fun
us.
hearing all your insight. You're a very
thank you.
experienced person.
Yes.
I'm trying.
Got a lot more to go.
Yes.
Yes. Lots more time to go. So to figure it out, I guess.
Yeah.
So.
Cool. Well, that's it for today, but we'll definitely have you back on in the future.
Awesome.
And
Thanks.
thanks for talking.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.